So this is a pre-compliance schedule that is done independently by the committee that I've referred to, the BEC, where they clearly scrutinize whether bidders have clearly outlined or provided their CSG.
Sorry, Mr. Mnisi, again, apologies for interrupting. Bear in mind that the pagination that the commissioners are using doesn't include the 2 pages of index at the front of, in the case of this bundle, the 2 pages of index.
Okay.
So if you can just deduct 2 pages from your references when you're referring them to a specific document.
Right,
so
so
your pre-compliance schedule
178.
will appear in their bundles as 178.
Okay. Maybe I think what I'll also do, I'll wait for the screen to guide me if we're on the same page.
We have it the way he's been giving it to us.
then I'm the one with the wrong papers.
We have the item 3 pre-compliance schedule. It's on 180.
Yes.
Thanks. I'll try and sort my own papers out later. Sorry.
If we run into difficulty, I will let you know.
Okay.
But we are following.
Okay. Thank you, SC. So the purpose of pre-compliance is to already deal with issues that are non-compliant, to start the process of eliminating bidders that shouldn't be able to make it to the next stage of administrative compliance. BEC and the members that have been appointed, I'm going to reiterate, are made up of individuals from supply chain management, TMPD, the user department, as well as the departments who regularly utilize or make use of this tender. It's a multidisciplinary structure, form of individuals and expertise who are together involved with dealing with these matters. This is just an example, Chair, that pre-qualification stage, a number of bidders are already knocked off as a result of them not being non-compliant to many issues and not attending the compulsory briefing session, for argument's sake. We then move on, Chair. On purpose, I want to take us to page number 187.
Mr. Mnisi, maybe before we do page 187, if you would just explain the pre-compliance criteria, what it is that is looked at to disqualify people, because there are specific topics at the top.
Yes.
I don't know if this is all of it or not.
Okay. Yes, indeed, Commissioner Baloy. From a pre-compliance perspective, we check whether the company declared CSD number. This is to confirm whether they are registered on the National Treasury's centralized supplier database. The second aspect, we refer to them being a restricted supplier. There are suppliers who are blacklisted from doing business with the state. From a pre-compliance perspective, it's essential for the bid evaluation committee to conduct a validation check whether any of the prospective bidders are listed among the prohibited bidders as designated by National Treasury. Second component, state employees. We don't do business with state employees. They need to conduct an assessment from a pre-compliance level before we even move to administrative requirements, whether any of the bidders, directors, or associates are state employees. A tax compliance schedule is done at this stage as well. Does not necessarily mean that bidders are excluded as a result of Section 43 of the MFMA, which we'll discuss later on. We allow bidders an additional 7 days, but it's effective to take note of this, Chair, so that from an initial submission perspective, all structures of BEC, BAC, and the accounting property teams and the accounting officer are aware that at this point in time, this bidder was not compliant. The second aspect is that if there is a joint venture, there must be an approved joint venture agreement as well as joint CSD, joint BE certificate for preference point systems. Then lastly, it's effective for us to take note whether did these bidders attend the compulsory briefing session. There is a compulsory briefing session. If you don't attend that clarification engagement, you are disqualified at this point from the onset.
Thank you.
Chairperson, I'll then move further to page number 187. On 187, we start looking at the administrative requirements now. The key items of completion from administrative requirements. Bidders must ensure that the minimum bidding documents are fully completed. MBD 1, for argument's sake, must be completed in full. MBD 4, which references declaration of interest, must be completed in full. Bidders must provide other entities which they are directors in. They must equally provide those MMA numbers from registration with the supplier database from National Treasury. They must further ensure that the declaration of procurement of any procurement of above 10 million rand is included as MBD 5. MBD 8 is an essential to declaration of past SCM management experience. MBD 9 is an essential declaration which certifies the independent completion of this tender. The joint venture agreement is an essential matter of consideration. And the last essential administrative requirement, Chair, is the pricing schedule. Pricing schedule must be completed in full. In the instance where some bidders do not complete a price, they must put a dash or indicate that it's not applicable. This is to avoid issues if they are an appointed bidder, they now claim that they did not complete all prices in full, but then need to revisit the process. So we dictate that the pricing schedule must be completed in full without any mishaps. This is also, Chair, an effective process that is done independently by the bid evaluation committee, which is comprised of those individuals from supply chain management, the user department, as well as the tender owner. In this case, TMPD. It's a multitude of individuals who sit and assess these requirements independently. The second stage, which is essential, Chair, is...
Sorry, Mr. Mnisi. Where that heading, certification of independent tender determination, who does that? Is it the bidder that does that certificate, or is it an internal? What does it mean, in fact? Maybe let me ask more simply.
It's the bidder, Chair. In short, they make a commitment that all the information completed here is from us as the bidder, and we stand by it.
Okay, thank you.
Chairperson, I'm now going to move on page number 195 of the same pack. This pack now details a list of bidders that have been disqualified as a result of them being non-compliant of those 7 administrative-related matters the bidder did not comply to. Multitude of reasons are provided. It is fully aligned to the schedule that is provided above. It also demonstrates that due diligence is done in terms of double-checking with the work of themselves that the BEC have in fact disqualified the correct individuals in line with the schedule that has been prepared earlier on. So now, Chair, the bidders who remain and move on from administrative to mandatory compliance are the bidders who have passed the stage of administrative requirements. These are now listed from page 198. So, Chair, the purpose of me doing this is to outline the process and procedures which must be followed to validate the process is done A to Z to the T, and there hasn't been any glitch or mishap throughout the process. We're now sitting on mandatory requirements on page 198. On page 198 now lists the bidders on the top, and it gives the key mandatory requirements as a column, on your column towards your right. I know this page is upside down. However, the BEC, which is comprised of a multifaceted individuals from all departments within the city, then conducts an independent checklist of each bidder that's remaining. Say, okay, we are now left with bidder 2, 12, 15, 19, and 21 on page 198 for argument's sake. The minimum requirements is, firstly, the bidders must have a serious certificate. Do these bidders have that? They conduct the checklist, Chair. This is all under oath. There are declarations of interest that are completed by all members of the BEC. Mandatory requirements are completed accordingly from 1 up until, I think, 11 for bidders 1 to 21. Demonstration that an independent process is done, and we are still within the key requirements of the legislature process of awarding bids of this nature. If we move on for argument's sake to page 199, just to give you a picture of bidder 19. Bidder 19, for some reason, does not provide photographic evidence of vehicles as required in the specifications, meaning there's a glitch here, and it's an area of concern, which means you might not be able to pass and go to the next stage. As well as the liability insurance of 10 million rand. It's already an indication to me that bidder 19, without saying his name, will be disqualified from the process for failure to adhere to the key requirements as designated by the mandatory requirements. So, Chair, that's the process that is undertaken for all bidders, which then gives us guidance to move on to the next stage. With your permission, Chair, I will now take us to page number 206. Same bundle. At the bottom of page 206, we now give a clear explanation of the bidders who now did not meet. At the bottom column now gives explanations of the bidders who did not meet the mandatory requirements. They might have passed administrative pre-compliance, they might have passed administrative compliance stage, but when we got to mandatory requirement stage, they failed due to a multitude of reasons as displayed earlier on. So the bidders that are listed here, which is 12, 19, 44, 51, and 54 for argument's sake, do not meet the mandatory requirements. They are disqualified from the process moving forward. On 207, we now give an indication of the bidders that are moving on to the next stage. This is on page 207. The top is a tabulated, it's a table that informs bidder 2, 15, 21, 23, 26, 32, 35, 36, and 40 that are compliant from a mandatory perspective. This means these bidders that we're looking here up in front of us are compliant from pre-compliance perspective. They have met the requirements from administrative compliance. They have met the mandatory requirements. They now be moving forward to the next stage, which is a physical verification, where the members of bid evaluation committee, I'm going to reiterate, Chairperson, they're made up of multifaceted individuals across the city, from supply chain management, TMPD, as well as the user departments are responsible for utilizing this tender, then must go out on site and conduct physical inspections and validate whether the vehicles that have been provided as part and parcel of the bid are actually those vehicles, and whether those vehicles meet those key requirements. Similarly to issues of weapons and other matters that must be validated from a physical verification perspective. That process is then undertaken accordingly, Chair, and I will now move to page number 2111. On 2111. 211.
Oh, you said 2111.
Sorry, Chair. 211. On 211, we now designate the results of the physical verification that was done by the bid evaluation committee. Bid evaluation committee went out on site, inspected all the individuals who had passed the first three stages of the legislated supply chain management process and procedures. Bidder number 21, for some reason, does not have a number 5-ton truck as designated within the bid that was submitted. They then need to be disqualified as a result of not meeting the requirements from a physical assessment perspective. We're now remaining on table number 7.2 with about 8 bidders who are compliant from a site inspection perspective, who must therefore then be evaluated further on stage 4. Stage 4 is when we consider pricing and preference point systems. Bidder 2, 15, 23, 26, 32, 35, 36, and 40, Chair, are now the bids who have passed the process from A to Z and at the last stage where they are evaluating the procurement process. So, Chair, the process of me taking the commission through this process is to try and designate the segregation of duties, one, the compliance process that must be followed by the bid evaluation committee, and to give an indication that throughout this process that I've just mentioned, from pre-compliance, in fact, from the closing register up until the bid evaluation committee, I've got no involvement whatsoever. I've got no access to any of these documents whatsoever. They are under key and lock, and they are made available to designated individuals only.
Mr. Mnisi, do you play any role in the appointment of the members of these committees?
No, I don't. Members of these committees are appointed by the city manager. They are representatives and they are seconded by the departments. So I'll give an example. If there are members from TMPD, the chief of police must give us individuals. We have put these systems and internal controls on purpose, Chair, in order to avoid a situation where we hand-pick individuals who might be favorable to anyone. The chief of police will be responsible for providing individuals who are from TMPD to sit on BEC. If it's human settlements who's involved as well, group human settlements department must second individuals who will serve in PEC as well. And then the chairperson and the secretary of these committees are appointed by or are seconded by the supply chain management team.
So it goes directly to the city manager. You don't play any role at all, not even advising the city manager?
No, I do, Chair. The list, I'm CC'd on that, and I do confirm that we did receive a list from the various departments, and this is a list that the city manager can endorse. I do advise and I do recommend it.
So it's not a passive role, then you do play a part in advising the city manager on the suitability of the people who are nominated to sit in either of these committees.
Maybe let's put it this way, Chair. I'm always carbon copied on those matters, and when there's a dissenting view, I raise that. And in this instance, when I'm carbon copied and I see the list of individuals, and I'm happy that the process has been followed and that the relevant departmental heads have recommended individuals, I endorse it, and I have no issue whatsoever. In the event I am made aware, or I see in the process, that this is a tender that is utilized by 4 groups, but there are only 2 departments who are representatives, I then raise concerns accordingly. I think my role is to make sure and validate whether we have given a view and an opinion from the user departments to second individuals they deem are compliant to serve on these committees.
Thank you.
So there has been instances where I would say, no, Chair, I'm not convinced city manager with this list. You can't approve this. I'm not seeing representatives from group A, B, or C. They are users of this tender.
A related question, Mr. Mnisi. In paragraph 84, where you speak about the composition of the BEC, you say that, among others, there will be the user department,
Yes.
and then you say, and the department responsible for the tender.
Yes.
Is that still, that second part, is that still the user department, or is it a different department, and what is their role when you say responsible for the tender?
So responsible for the tender in this case will be TMPD. They are the ones who are designated the responsibility. However, if this function is not in place, human settlement departments normally bears the branch and they are affected. So they make use of the tender as human settlements or shared services, but the owner of this tender is TMPD. So they make available some sorts of funding to ensure that this tender is executed accordingly.
I see, thank you.
Chairperson, I've covered now the essence of GM13. GM14 is a similar document, and it makes reference to a further report. In GM14, it's the final BEC report that has served to the Bid Adjudication Committee. The entire process has been concluded, Chair. I'm just going to find the page. It's on page 244. So the major difference from GM14 to GM13 is that GM13 is served at BAC, which I will outline later on. BAC found a number of non-compliant issues or concerns which they were not covered with. GM14 now covers those issues of concern that were raised by BEC. So you will see the difference that they bring on board as a further report. And this further report touches on the areas of concern or the areas of non-compliance that had been previously raised by the BAC and referred the matter back. We will touch on the 3 instances where BAC sat and we'll delve on the reasons in detail. I'm just giving the Commission an example that if BAC, for argument's sake, take note that one bidder has been disqualified for an administrative matter, but there's no proof in the report that is being provided. It is questioned and the reports are referred back accordingly. So GM14, I'm going to go to the picture where it gives us a further report and how the issues might have been addressed. Just going to find that page for the Commission. There we go. So, Chair, on page number 329 of the second bundle. 329. On 329, it comes back as a further report, and this is the major difference because this is the final report that serves at BAC. Now, it says as a further report, matters raised by the BAC, 1 to 6. This was the issue that was raised. These are the responses that we are bringing on board as BEC.
Sorry, Mr. Mnisi. Before going directly to GM14 from GM13, should you not have gone back to the narrative at page 21 and picked up from 84, which would then take you to GM14?
Chair, I think what I was trying to do is GM13 is a BEC report that was referred back.
So, you see, my difficulty is you refer us to a report that comes in after there has been some decision, preliminary decision by the BAC, if I understand you correctly.
Okay.
That's my difficulty, because you have not told us anything about the BAC
Okay.
getting involved at this stage. So it's been BEC throughout. Do you get me?
I get you, Chair.
Yes.
So on my statement, Chair, I start covering the events of the BAC from page 22, where I deal with each of the events. So I'm not sure you would want me to deal with just...
Is it not page 21, paragraph 84?
Yes, page 21, paragraph 87, 21, 87. On the first bundle, on my sworn statement, I start dealing with the process of the adjudication committee. 21 of my sworn statement, paragraph 87. So I'm almost getting to your concern, Chair, where we'll outline each.
Okay, maybe let me hear you out, yes.
So I'm concluding on GM 14, and I'm saying on GM 14, the purpose and the difference between GM 13 and GM 14 is that it comes as a further report now. BAC have raised concerns. I will outline on these concerns on each of the 3 occasions soon, Chair. They have raised concerns. BEC is now coming on board and saying, we have dealt with these concerns. This is our responses. It's then retabulated to BAC, and this is the final BEC report that was considered and approved. So now, Chair, I would like us to go back to the main statement on page 21, where I would outline now the bird adjudication process, as well as the 3 sittings that's set, which one now will tie your concern in terms of what happened with that report, why was it not approved, and why was it returned back, and of course, obviously, how it was remedied moving forward. On 21 of the main bundle, or the sworn statement, I now deal with the bird adjudication committee process. The bird evaluation committee presents its evaluation outcomes and recommendations to the bird adjudication committee. On this instance, it was on 3 occasions for this tender, Chair. It was on the 4th of September, 2025. It was on the 18th of September, 2025. It was on the 25th of September, 2025. On 88, I cover in summary that on the first 2 occasions, the matter was referred back to the BEC. This includes GM 13, Chair, where the matter was referred back to the BAC for further clarification, refinement, and alignment with the applicable supply chain management requirements. The bird evaluation committee duly considered the BAC's inputs and effected the necessary corrections and enhancements to the evaluation report, ensuring that all compliance, technical, and governance aspects were adequately addressed. Further to that...
Before you go on to the next paragraph, and you don't need to refer us to the document if it's not necessary. The power or capacity of the BAC
Yes.
to refer back to the BEC, where is that contained in the SCM policy?
It's in the delegation of authorities, Chair. When systems of delegations, the roles and responsibilities of the bird adjudication committee as per the MFMA, those are delegated. These are functions delegated to the city manager, who further delegates them further to myself, who I serve as the chairperson, as well as other members who are serving on the bird adjudication committee. So the real reason for referring back, if we see issues of non-compliance, if there's errors of non-compliance to the prescriptions, the MFMA regulations, as well as the policy, we are entitled to refer that back and not advise the accounting officer to appoint as a result of glitches which might not have been clarified by the BEC at that stage. So those functions are as per the MFMA delegations, delegated by the accounting officer to the bird adjudication committee. They are clear in the appointment letter that it gives to members of BAC committee as well, in terms of your roles, your responsibilities, and the key functions that you must execute.
Okay, I don't know whether it's me not understanding your answer or maybe I didn't express myself properly. What I'm trying to understand is when the BAC
Yes.
exercises a power to refer back to the BEC, where is that contained? And I ask the question because I'm aware of some instances in another city where a BEC, after the BAC referred back to the BEC said, no, we've done our job. We are not going to look at this again. We don't have the power to look at it again. You must make your decision based on what we've submitted. So authorizes the BAC to refer back to the BEC instead of just making a final decision on the basis of the report that you have. You understand what I'm asking?
Yes, Chair, I understand.
Okay.
So, Chair, I can confirm the policy is clear, and the policy makes reference to the BAC performing its function and ensuring that the process has been followed to the T without any glitches or shortcomings. If the BAC picks up shortcomings within the process, we are entitled to refer that back for clarification. Before we refer the matter back, Chair, you must be aware that the individuals from the BEC are given an opportunity to clarify on the spot. We are here today at the Commission. You asked me for a relevant section in the MFMA. I say, Chair, I'm not aware of the actual section right now. Can I come back to you? So back to the BEC perspective. BAC will say, where is the property report in terms of this bid? Or the property raised these concerns. Have you addressed them accordingly? We're not seeing this clearly stated in the BEC report. The BEC is there to answer that question. If they're able to answer the question, we are then satisfied with the response and the procedures move further. If they're unable to answer that question, Chair, we're then at a standoff. And this is when we refer matters back. When answers are not readily available by the BEC, or whether the BEC themselves need to reconstitute in terms of responding to the BAC on that particular query. This also happens from the accounting officer perspective, Chair, where the BAC would conclude on an award. The accounting officer's got the power to refer that back and say, I'm referring this back. I'm not certain whether you have covered area 1, 2, or 3, or within the mandatory requirement stage, I'm not convinced that bidder number 2 has complied with these issues on board. So that also happens on a regular basis. BAC is able to respond. If we respond accordingly, the accounting officer then okays that response and approves. So in this instance, the answers from the BEC were not readily available. Hence, the matter was referred back, and the BEC accepted, Chair, that this is something that we need to look at. This is a compliance glitch that they might have overlooked as well. Or the report was not clearly stated on how they addressed matters of that nature. The nitty-gritties are essential, Chair, because the city is always embroiled with legal battles with service providers as to why they have been disqualified in some instances, and in some instances, why others are appointed. So these decisions that are taken must not be subjective, it must be objectively stated within that. I'm not sure if that covers you, Chair, Commissioner.
Okay, look, I think we'll discuss it further as you testify, but I hear your answer.
Chairperson, I was on item number 88, where I concluded that on the first 2 occasions, the matter was referred back to the BEC by the BAC for further clarification, refinement, and alignment to the applicable supply chain management requirements. The BAC duly considered the BAC's input and effected the necessary corrections and enhancements to the evaluation report, ensuring that all compliance, technical, and governance aspects have now been adequately addressed. On 89, I touched following the incorporation of these revisions, the BEC resubmitted the matter to BAC on the 25th of September. The BAC was satisfied that all outstanding issues had been appropriately addressed and resolved. The BAC subsequently approved the recommendation, resulting in a formal signing of the resolution and its submission to the accounting officer for further consideration and approval in accordance with the prescribed SCM delegation framework. Chairperson, with your permission, I now deal with what transpired on each of the days, on the 4th, the 18th, and the 25th at the BAC itself. What really transpired on those separate dates, and I will refer you to several annexures which will also answer your concerns on GM 13 and the reasons why that was referred back.
Sorry, Mr. Mnisi, sorry to interrupt, but we've got a practice of taking a tea break at 11, so I think if you're going to shift to each of the BAC meetings, it may be convenient to take the tea break before you do that.